met with priest. He sat us down, showed us all his financials. They have a great, thriving school. They have a great restaurant. They have a great coffee shop. The only thing is, the IRS was on his back. Welcome to Develop by Faith, where we're going to talk about how you can set up a firewall to stop yourself from liability from outsiders and a liability from the IRS. It just comes down to this, Odell. Don't mess with the IRS. That's just that simple. And I think a lot of times what happens is people think, hey, I got a church. I'm tax exempt. Yes, you are. And there's all different types of layers for that. And again, I'm going to say this episode, talk to your tax professional. However, you have the experience. Yeah. You've seen it all. I mean, you got this pastor that looks good on paper, but when you pop the hood and you start looking and examining, you're thinking to yourself, how is this car even running? How is this not a blowout?
With duct tape? With duct tape?
Yeah.
Duct tape?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And then they wonder, and I find like this, a lot of these churches, they just kind of run it for business sense, because I understand some pastors know how to preach really well, and they have people on the board that understand business, right? But then they don't really know how to be fundable, because a bank, a financial institution is only going to deal with you if you're structured the right way.
Right.
And if there's commingling going on, if you got the church is selling coffee and they use the profits from that to pay for, the pastor's utility bill or whatever the case is like, what?
Okay. Let's not beat up the pastor. Okay. And I know that's not what you're doing.
He representing the pastor.
I'm a pastor. So let's not beat up the pastor. Let's say this. Let's say that you don't mess with the IRS. This is true. Let's say that the rules over the years for tax-exempt organizations, religious organizations changed. Mm-hmm. Understanding that some people understand that because we are a religious organization, we're tax-exempt. You're correct. However, we always believe in building firewalls. So it's another entity that we could put in between the church itself, who's tax exempt, without even having to file anything. Mm-hmm. And then we put this other entity in. Click the link below, and you can find out how to learn about that. And then you're really tax exempt for some of the other things that you're trying to do. Now, as far as banks, I spent a lot of times with presidents and vice presidents of banks, mm-hmm. and the banks will say, Odell, we need their form. It's a form that banks saying they're not all identical, but 90% of it is. They want to know certain things about your organization because they're looking to see if you're bankable. That's the term they use. Are you worthy of them giving you a loan?
Well, can you break that down? What does that mean? What is "are you bankable" actually means? Because mm-hmm. I think that I got money, I should be able to open up an account.
But are you responsible?
How do they determine that?
They look at your pattern, your behavior. They look at your behavior on paper. Okay, for the last 3 years, usually say 3 to 4 years, how much revenue have you brought in?
As an organization. As
a church, yes. Okay. How many, give me the list of your 10 top individuals, meaning that is all your money coming from X amount of people, mm-hmm. or is it spread out? Because what that means, if one of those top donors, tithes and offers, get mad and leave, it's not there. The revenue's not there. And what do you have as collateral? So we go in and we work with them and like, okay, pastors, the numbers are dropping. Since COVID, the numbers are dropping. Things are not looking good. Okay, but we have some land over here. Mm-hmm. How much do we own the land? Let's kind of get our debt ratio. And we could go to a financial institution and say, we're going to reorganize our debt. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. We go and look at it and say, okay, what's draining us? What are we paying for that we shouldn't be paying for? Mm-hmm. And why we're doing it? And we're just asking the question, Why are we doing certain things? Not questioning you like you're on a witness stand, but questioning for a better understanding. Because a lot of times you may realize that, hey, I'm not buying this building, I'm renting this building, and we're paying $1 a month for the building. And we might say, you know what, you really can't afford to pay $1 a month. You could do it for a minute, but 18 months from now, you're going to be broke. So let's find another building that we're paying 75 cents a month or 60 cents a month, and that could benefit us. So those are the type of things we could go in and tell pastor, him or her, on what's going on, because that's how you have to restructure it and understand the business side of it. Yes, pastor, preach his heart out, preach her heart out, do a good job. But a lot of times they're not always understanding the ramifications financially of some of the decisions that they're making. And the fact that where I usually find one of the biggest culprits is in the copier lease agreement. And he said, copier? Oh, yeah. The copier lease agreement is the biggest drainer in the church if you're not careful.
Can you write that off?
Yeah, you could write something off, but it costs you so much money. This is the church. You've been sold a copier lease agreement where everybody has a copier. The copier does color copies, and you say it's free, but it's free up to X amount of copies. And then per copy is $1 or something. It's ridiculous. And you sign into it where they say, well, you know what? I know you had another copy company. We'll buy that company out. And all they did is took the money you already owe and put it onto the back end of this agreement. And it's egregious.
Wow.
And nothing against a copy salesperson. Don't quit going to church. But I'm just saying, and I know, and that I know what I'm saying is true. Those are the places we know where to look. It's just like if someone audits you. You do this all the time. You know where to look. Other places. You look, okay, why is all the other copiers using X amount of copies per month, but this one copy over here, they're using 10 times as much? Well, somebody in the church is running their business off the copies. They're making all their copies right there. I'm mad at the church, but I'm saying to this person, hey, Odell, listen, man. You got to quit making all these color copies, man. You don't use that many copies. What you doing? And all you have to do is say, Odell, stop. And 95% of the times, Odell stops. All Odell doing is taking advantage of a situation that he or she thinks is acceptable. And it's costing church so much money, but since they don't see the numbers, it doesn't matter.
So could that things like the copier, the liabilities, could that be in a firewall entity? And I say that because I like to think of the NFL, right? NFL is a nonprofit,
right?
And
so they say. Just like what's in the NCAA nonprofit?
Yeah, right. And while you're at the game, you paid to get inside, right? You're at the game. They have advertisers that pay to be on the screen. They have all these different vendors there with restaurants, the team store, all these different vendors that are their own separate entities. If a player on the field gets hurt, the game stops. But it doesn't stop the NFL from doing commerce. People still buy food in the stands. They're still buying shirts. They're buying tickets. They're buying parking spots. They're buying all kinds of things while this whole thing happens. And the church has to be the same way. Because here's the thing. If you're going to get audited, or if another entity tries to open that hood and see all the duct tape, then that becomes the problem. See, the IRS don't have a problem with profit. They have a problem of undisclosed profit.
Because they want their cut. They want their cut. All IRS is saying, I want my cut.
And when you talk to some of these pastors and how they run the business, everybody just thinks that, hey, I got a 501c3. I could run this nonprofit as a for-profit business, and that becomes a big red flag. And there's different ways to structure to make sure everything's good. I'll tell you a funny story. Pastor, good friend of mine, talked to him. We laugh and joke about all stuff all the time. And, the church was kind of doing fundraising, right? Fundraising, everything like that. And then it's okay.
Not fried chicken dinner, baby contest, and all that. Not that.
Yeah, not that.
Selling chicken dinners.
Not that. Not
Okay,
selling chicken dinners. They might do barbecue dinners, which you're like, oh man, I thought you don't. But anyway, we didn't go to the text. This is a show about development. So, anyways, they were selling the fundraising, and then they're like, oh, well, we can just partner with this restaurant to do this, and we'll sell this and this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. And they did pretty good. They did pretty good off of that because the members, it was like a thing. Like the members were pushing to their friends and family, and the food was actually pretty good. Well, they made a lot of money, and the IRS was like, okay, well, this was for profit.
Right.
This had nothing to do with the nonprofit. Even though you said it's raising capital. No, you did a service, you did this, you need to report that. And he had all these CPAs and tax attorneys kind of going behind him, and they just told him, dude, you just should have structured right. When you start to do this, you should have already talked to us before you even did it. If you would have had a conversation with us going back, well, you always say, oh, Dale, you want to be able to make sure that you don't have no problems, so you have the conversation up front. There's no problems in it whatsoever. You do everything up front, so you don't have that. Well, now he's structured in such a way, kind of like the NFL, I would say. We're going to call it like the NFL, where he has a stadium, the church, people come there every week, and he offered all these different services there, and each entity has its own thing. That means if something was to happen with one of the entities, the other entities can still operate, and nobody has to worry about nothing. It's clear bookkeeping. They'll pay taxes off of whatever profit they made, and then they will donate. The businesses would donate.
Well, it's the 990T. That's the tax form for unrelated. We talked about that earlier. Unrelated business income. So we understand that. But to your point, and I spend a lot of times with attorneys, that we don't want to see any bridges. Some say we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's a cop-out. We don't want to see any bridges. So what we've asked the attorneys to come in, tax attorneys, there's certain things as tax attorneys. They specialize in taxes. They specialize. I have a nonprofit attorney who's one of the best in the city. That's what they do. Nonprofit, the rules and regulations, the governance, the taxes, everything. You get what you pay for. If you pay for Ray to do it, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have a Ray mess, because it's okay to do it, but then you're going to have to explain how it works, and you need to understand. And the last thing the church needs to do is lose credibility by not really doing things the right way. We say the church is not a business. I beg to differ. I say it's God's business, and we have to do things decent and in order. God gave us gifts, talks about it all the time. We have the gifts of preaching, teaching, all those things, but we have the gift of administration. That's a gift that God gave the church. The gift of administration, leadership, order, putting things in place. So the gifts is there. If you choose not to use the gifts, we say, well, CeCe Wine is a great gift to sing. Yes, she is. CeCe might not be your best CPA, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what we have to look at it from the perspective of, let's set it up the right way. We're not reinventing the wheel. We know what we're talking about. So you're not paying for something from scratch. You're paying for 40 some odd years of experience to make sure that what you set up is sustainable and it won't embarrass you. That's the key. So when the IRS comes, it's no problem. We give the IRS their cut. It's okay. The IRS is the government. They have to get their cut to a certain degree, not more than their cut. Give them their cut, because guess what? In our community, a lot of people are looking to the government for support.
They are.
So it's reciprocal. Nobody pay taxes. No support. I travel international. I travel to Africa. I travel to other places. They don't have the safety net systems that we have. So we have to understand it's a circle. It's cyclical. It's systemic, whether we agree or disagree. When I was broke, growing up in South Carolina, broke as a child, I'm like, who will pay for it? The government. Okay. Now, I'm not broke anymore. I'm paying taxes. So I file my taxes, but I don't file my taxes myself. My tax situation is complicated and complex. So I get a professional to come in and do it. So that's the same way the church. The church situation is complicated and complex, but it's not hard for someone who know what they're doing. So get a professional to do it, just like your personal taxes. It's just the way it is. Do you do your own taxes?
No.
It's certain write-offs, there's certain benefits, there's certain rules. The tax laws are changing all the time. So if we do that personally, why would we subject the church to something that we think is right? Well, I think, no, the rules have changed now. Now you can sit in the pulpit and say whatever you want to say politically. That law has changed. You could do those things. You could even raise money for a campaign and get it tax deductible now. And we're not talking about politics, but I'm just telling you things have changed, but it's changed recently. Yeah. So back to the church. Why not allow the church to do what it does best and bring in the experts to help with stuff like taxes, with the IRS, all those type of things? We have to get to a point where we understand what we know, but also we understand what we don't know, because unintended consequences are still consequences.
You mentioned earlier about, are you bankable? And I think what stops a lot of economic development and a big level in communities is the pillar of the community, which a lot of times is the church. They're not structured right, and they can't, or they don't have their ducks in a row to be able to pull down, millions of dollars to do a big time development to change and really impact that whole area. So when it comes to, leadership, the board, the pastor, deacons, knowing that you guys have to be, structured great. And here's the thing. A lot of people that do business are not structured properly. So I don't want you guys to think because you may be embarrassed or whatever. We talk to people all the time, pastors. You see these mega churches, when you pull back their books sometimes, you're like, right. Y'all don't have it all the way there, but that don't mean a point and look. It's okay, we have some pain points here. Let's focus on this to be able to reverse that. So then when we do bring, Mr. Banker here and they can look at everything, they can say, okay, you know what? Y'all are good to go. We'll give y'all this. And by the way, we'll work on your capital stack to be able to bring things down. Pastor can actually go to sleep at night knowing that they're not, getting over on the government and the IRS is going to show up knocking on your door. We want to make sure that you guys are good with your vision, but before you fund your vision, we have to make sure you're structured right. So you have a strong foundation and the vision don't collapse, because they even got Al Capone on taxes.
Well, they get everybody on taxes.
Everybody.
And let me tell you why. We talk about one's ducks in a row. Your duck could be in a row, but your ducks could be in the wrong row. You ever gotten a line and you got the wrong line? And you're like, I'm waiting in line. Mm-hmm. Then when you get to the front, it's like, you're in the wrong line.
It's called the DMV. Yeah. I've been to the DMV. Everybody been to the wrong line in DMV. Like, oh no, you got to go over there. I don't take that. I gotta wait in that long line.
But to the point, that's an excellent example of the fact that making sure that the banker, and I have relationships, and you do too, with bankers, so we don't wait until the banker comes in and evaluates you. Mm-hmm. We get the banker to come in, because that's him or her ministry, the ones we know, and say, hey, let me tell you all how to fill out the form.
Yep.
What we're looking for.
Yep.
It's like a good teacher will prepare you for the test. It's not a got you.
Yeah.
We'll prepare you for the test. And if we have some blemishes out there, how best to present our blemishes. That's all.
That's it.
How to do it. If some things are crazy, if we had a church split, if we had the pastor got a divorce and half the members left, if something like that happened, that's fine. Let's fix it, meaning present it the best way we can, and let the finance folks from the bank know, yes, revenue dropped, tithes and offerings dropped. The pastor had a situation, it dropped, boom. Now it's stabilizing. Yep. So instead of saying we bring in $1 a year, now we're bringing in 68 cents a year. And we can explain why. But we've been bringing in 68 cents for the last 2 years. But hey, last quarter, it was 69 cents. So now we've had our situation, and so it's stabilized. So we have to show and tell the story with our numbers.
Yeah.
And we have to be truthful. We have to be honest. And we're not trying to do anything immoral, unethical, or illegal. So if you want to do anything immoral, unethical, illegal, we're not the people for you. I'm sorry. That's not what we do. But if you want to do it the right way, we're your people.
I'm going to say this, Odell. A lot of times, even in the housing market, right, when it goes to buying as a 1099, a self-employed employee, the banks want 2 years worth of taxes, and they want to see where you had profit. A lot of times what these self-employed employees would do, they would pretty much say, hey, they'll write everything off. I made $200,000, gross, but my net was 10 grand. I ain't got to pay taxes. But you guess what? You can't borrow because the bank is like, oh, you don't make enough profit for us to do that. They base it off of your profit. I mean, there's things that go around that, bank account loans and stuff like that to do that, but you're paying higher in interest. But thing is, churches, structure yourself right and then build off of that relationship that you have with those bankers. And I'm going to say this too with commercial bankers. Everybody, everybody needs money or capital to be able to do a lot of big time projects. Everybody has a vision, right? We've learned that when you have some sense, right, where you have some knowledge, you don't have to have everything perfect, but a lot of times when we meet with our clients, we'll help structure them and see everything, put our eyes on it first. Then we would invite the banker, and if there's a little work that need to be done with them, the banker will work with it. But what the banker don't like is when they show up and they already got everybody already trying to get them, but when they actually take time a day to come and meet with you and you're not ready or prepared, it's kind of like, I can use my time. My highest and best use of my time is with someone who's ready, someone who's there, someone who's more structured, that I don't have to worry about taking the time out to structure and point out and teach. We don't mind doing that,
right?
Because that's what, our relationship we have. And we've been doing this. We've been meeting with bankers. We know what banks look for what.
And different banks, what they look for. You're absolutely correct.
Yep.
But to your point, as we move toward close, it's simple. Money's a tool, T-O-O-L, not a toy, T-O-Y.
Trademark.
And networking is another form of currency, meaning that people like, well, Odell, you always doing deals. I am doing deals, but I do deals that's win-win-win. Everybody wins. So if currency is what we need and networking is another form of currency, let me explain. So we know the bankers personally. We say to them, hey, I'm working with Odell. Yes, Odell's okay, but he had a little blemish here on his credit report or something like that. You come in and get to know Odell and understand what happened. And once you understand what happened, then you tell us how we should tell the story, because we're telling the story to your institution. And you say, Odell, this is what you should say and explain it this way, because this is what we're looking for. A good teacher will always tell you what they're teaching you and make sure you understand it before you take the test. A bad teacher gives you something to say like, I got you. I want to catch you. I want to catch you in a lie. I want to catch you in something. So that's where that relationship shows up. So we're not going to put you in front of financial institutions that we don't have a relationship with, who are not open and kind and welcoming to churches. Everybody's not. Everybody don't believe in church finances. So this is kind of how we do it. And because of that relationship that we have, you're coming in under our tent, more or less, because the people know Key, they know Odell. So it's like, okay, this is one of Odell's referrals.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. But we have to scrub it and when I say scrub it, meaning that we look at the bank questionnaire and we make sure you fill it out the right way. And some questions you don't know, we walk you through it. And if the answer is not the right answer or a suitable answer, we still answer it correctly, but we make sure our wording is right. It's certain words that you use. It's certain words that you don't use. You don't just sit there and act like you offended because they ask this question. They're not asking the question to you. They're asking the question to the person who said they want to borrow $4 million from them. They want to see if you're going to pay them their money back. They're trying to see your character through a piece of paper. They're trying to determine if you're bankable or not. And we say later for that, all that's good, but come on in and meet Odell face to face. It's hard to hate up close, and it's hard to say no up close. But a lot of times we never get the opportunity to meet the banker up close, and the banker would say, like many real estate agents, good real estate agents would say, you're not ready yet to qualify for a home, but let me work with you for 6 months and get certain things in place. Get this bill, this credit card bill paid off. Fix that, do this, and then now you're ready. Yeah. So that's the key to it all. And I think that's why we're so successful, because we have those relationships with the bankers, but we also have those relationships with IRS people. Because believe it or not, bankers live in the community. Bankers go to your church or somebody's church. People who work for the IRS, they live in your community, go to your church. And those are the people we say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Out of your ministry, can you look this over and critique it for us? Say, Odell, we glad to.
And another thing, not all income is treated equally. You have a difference between active income and passive income.
Yes.
And, you know, people say, oh, you can just rent this out and da-da-da. A lot of real estate guys and developers where people in business, they don't really understand the 501c3 tax law. You know, you can talk to your accountant or whomever, but make sure they're a professional when it comes to that. Now, I will say this, going through experience, going through, hey, a track record, we understand what and how the structure it needs to be, whether you are to develop, whether you do bring in any other entities, a subsidiary firewall, I should say, for you to offer different services for the community, and how you can show profit and how you can work through and not be stressed out. How you can get access to that, fill out our form at the link below. Be able to fill that out. We'll reach out to you, have a free call to see, you know, if anything we can do to make sure that you all are in line with this. And if you guys have or need a referral, we have a connection with CPAs and EAs. EAs stand for Enrolled Agent with the IRS, that specialize in nonprofits, that they can help you with this and help you with the structure. But you have to reach out and raise your hand saying that you need help. I think the biggest thing is, you know, you want to make sure that you're in line to Odell's point, be structured properly. And being structured properly will cut down on, you know, dealing with the IRS. Let's make sure we build that foundation right. Let's get it built right from the start so that we can move forward and make a real big impact in your community. Odell?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Key used the term firewall a lot of times. Let me explain. I'm sure you know, but just want to explain. The firewall is a legal entity that separates the church from these other things you're doing, because we have to always protect the church. We have to protect the pastor. Sometimes we have to protect he or she from themselves. But, you know, we have the wherewithal and the track record to do that. So the firewall is that legal entity that if something goes wrong here, it doesn't affect the church legally, you know, and that's a big deal. And I believe in that. I push that, and I've seen that will protect everybody. And to your other point of this is just kind of how we do it. You know, you don't think about it, but it just makes sense. You go to people who you know and people who know you. And that's the main thing, because when people don't understand or trust someone else, they want you to answer all the questions. Yeah. But I've done deals where handshakes. I've had people tell me, Odell, yeah, I'll send you $25,000 in a grant. Just send me an email, short email, tell me what you're going to do per our conversation. So it's all about relationships to a certain degree. Now, you have to have, we always say it's not what you know, but who you know. All that's still true, but you have to know something for someone to invite you to the table and invite you in the room, because nobody's going to invite you into a room. Nobody's going to even bring you to a party and you embarrass them.
You guys, thank you so much for reaching out or watching this episode. Please like, comment, share. subscribe. Make sure you get this out to as many people, whether you're a pastor, board member, a deacon, or you're just someone that's in the congregation listening and getting all the fruits from the message that's being preached. If you're into development or if you're in business at all, share this with your friends and family. Be able to fill out the link below. That is so important because we want to connect with you. And listen, me and Odell, we'll jump on the call with you. You get a chance to talk to us directly. We'll explain different things that you might not have gotten from this episode or other episodes. We'll also make sure that we kind of build out your vision for your community for you. Fill it out, reach out to us, and allow us to help you be developed by faith.
Thank you.